Hey, it's Tpok. Um, yeah, back in true remembrance. My new guest was off in the corner, staring away with eyes downcast at empty space, as if there was some way to trace the intricate patterns of her bewilderment in the air between us. This wasn't surprising at all. Every guest I'd ever met had reacted this way upon arrival in town. They all acclimated in short order, of course. Rather, they were made to in one way or another. But La here was still crying. This was bad, really bad. I'd never seen a guest in such pitiful shape before. Slowly, as if my gaze were a burden too heavy for her slight shoulders to bear, she lifted her head and locked eyes with me. Then she murmured, "Don't mind me. I'll be fine." And sure enough, there were still tears flowing from her eyes, but her facial expression was otherwise totally neutral. Not sad, but definitely not happy either. I've had guests say that to me before. Usually it's because they have a sorrow so deep that they themselves are numb to the fact. Oh, really? Perhaps. But I agree with you. You'll be fine. Relax, you're my guest. We'll have you better in no time at all, I'm sure. La just quirked her lips vaguely in response. So she doubted that I could do anything for her. I wondered how I could ever turn her cynicism into faith, but I kept my mouth shut. It didn't matter. Whether she believed in me or not, I had a job to do. Right, I was her guide. Now wasn't that a hoot? The hospitality industry didn't suit me one bit. I'd have been much happier to stay at home doing nothing all day. All right, La, go ahead and take your luggage up to your room. I'll be down here making dinner if you need anything. I take it you'll be hungry at some point. La nodded silently and then walked upstairs with her bags. I gave the place a standard once-over. Old place, all right. Fortunately, it was far better built than I had originally thought. Unfortunately, it was far more cramped than I originally thought as well. Oh, I noticed I changed into casual clothes, I guess. I don't know. Or I just took my coat off. I stood in the kitchen and wondered what to make for dinner. The refrigerator was well stocked, so they'd made sure of that. Not that it really mattered. If supplies ran low, I could always go buy more. This was all being paid for by the higher-ups anyway. So what would La want to eat? This, too, happened to be part of the job, but that didn't mean I had to like it. I mean, what a joke. Cooking wasn't exactly my forte, and I hated picking up after someone else. If it weren't for the fact that I was a Mnemonicide, I would never have had to put up with this nonsense. Well, stew was a pretty safe choice, right? Right, nothing to it. I opened the refrigerator, plucked out some meat and vegetables, and got down to work. I just started boiling some water when I heard La come back downstairs. I turned around and, well, you know the face a normal person makes when confronted with that awful tangle of noise and assorted animal entrails called Christian death metal? No. I don't know that face. I don't know what face I would make either if I saw that. That was the exact expression she had plastered to her face. Something the matter? No, not at all. Great, now she was blushing. And what was I supposed to do, read her mind? You know, if there's something on your mind, I'd rather you told me. See, when you get worried, I get worried. I'm not worried about anything. I see. So much for that approach. Well, whatever. I had better things to do, like make this stew. That rhymed, by the way. Anything you don't like to eat? None. Don't care for some things. What? So in other words, there are some things you don't like to eat. Great. Man, I wasn't getting anywhere today, was I? You're not very nice. I get that a lot. So what don't you eat? Carrots. Carrots, eh? That was pretty cute, actually, in its own way. A half smile rose unbidden to my lips, but then La glared at me, and that was that. Okay, fine, no carrots then. I like carrots in stew. Tastes good. Anything else? No? No need anything? Thank you, but I've got things under control. Just have a seat, relax. I'll have dinner ready soon. I couldn't very well have my guests cook after all. La shot me a disappointed look, but then shrugged and walked out of the kitchen. Okay, all I had to do now was let the stew simmer on its own for a while, so I poked my head out of the kitchen to check up on how my guest was doing. She's not doing well. Or not, she was just sitting on a chair so motionless that she might have been mistaken for a wax doll. Her hands were clasped neatly on her lap, and her eyes were sharp and focused straight ahead. So she'd been like this the entire time? That would be so boring. Didn't that get really tiring after a while? La, there's no need to be so tense. Come, loosen up. You're one of us now. Until our psychic corrosion disappeared, that was. I couldn't really say when that would happen, though. Could be a week from today, could be 3 months from today. I'd heard that some exceptional cases even took years. Not tense. It's just... Before she could finish the sentence, her belly made an unhappy, empty sound. This explained everything, kind of. I take it you're hungry. La just blushed and glared at me. She must have seen how hard I was trying to contain myself. But the thing was, no matter what my instincts told me, I couldn't just laugh. There were tears in her eyes again. Whether that was due to the dolor, embarrassment, or chagrin was immaterial. I wasn't about to make a girl cry. Wait just a little bit longer, okay? I've got a delicious stew coming right up. But by this time, La was already staring pointedly out the window, ignoring me. But now she's happy. It was a simple meal, stew, bread, salad, but La was just wolfing it down as if it was the most delicious meal she'd ever had. I did have to wonder, though, did famous chefs get to feel this warm, fuzzy feeling deep down inside all the time? I would think so. I think that'd be like the main, plus of the job. Kind of like how doctors like seeing patients get better, I guess. Or some like money, I don't know. I stopped eating altogether and focused on La. Maybe it was a trick of the light, but I could have sworn that she looked almost looked happy. First time I'd seen her that way in all the short time I'd known her. Stop staring. Hard to eat that way. Oh, sorry about that. Am I weird? Huh? Am I weird? Why do you keep staring at me? Oh, no, you're not strange. I just kind of spaced out, that's all. Bad habit of mine. You certainly do eat a lot, that's all. Wow. Good job. Oops. I just told the girl that she ate a lot. How was I gonna get out of this one? Nothing wrong with that at all. In fact, it makes me happy to see you eat your fill. Right. Real smooth. But La just nodded warmly and smiled. I felt a rush of relief and suspicion all at once. That was bad enough at social interactions as it was, but girls were headaches of a totally different magnitude. So, I'm kind of wondering how this guy even got to be Mnemonicide. Because he's like, doesn't really want to do it, it seems like. And then he's bad with people. I don't know. I hope we find out. And this one, yeah. By the end of dinner, La had just about lost her air of bewilderment, although I couldn't tell whether it was for real or just another brave front. Not that I was in much better shape. While I was pretty used to this job by now, the first couple of days with the new guests were always a delicate phase. Best to end the day early and get a good night's sleep, so we'd both be bright-eyed and bushy-tailed come the morrow. I don't know why it's tomorrow, but why it's not tomorrow, it's the morrow. La, I'll be doing dishes down here, so why don't you go ahead and take a shower and go to bed? There should be a bathroom at the end of the corridor. I started to stand, but La just sat there and stared at me as if there was something she wanted to say but couldn't quite articulate. Oh, right. You have my word that I won't peep, so go ahead. I'm not worried about that. It's the room. The room? There's only one bed. Oh. So this must have been why she was so uptight before dinner. Totally understandable, although that didn't stop me from sighing. I mean, alright, now what? Come to think of it, I've never been assigned a female guest before. They always made sure you got someone of the same sex. Well, at least up until now. What a headache. La continued to stare at me, but there was something helpless lurking in her eyes now. It wouldn't be so hard to make that strong facade of hers crumble into dust now if I wanted to. And, I kind of wanted to. That's kind of mean. You know, as a joke. Or something. Okay. Shall we sleep together? What? She instantly flushed red as a beet. Her lips fluttered open and shut like those of goldfish out of water. This continued for a while, then she finally managed to stammer. No thanks. I'll just sleep on the floor. Great. Now she looked like she was going to cry again. That was a joke. There's a sofa in the living room, so I'll just sleep there. You go ahead and take the bed. After all, I wasn't about to make her sleep on the floor. The sofa looked nice and comfy, and it wasn't as if I particularly cared. I'd slept in far less comfortable places than that before I'd taken this job. You're taller than I am, you'll cramp. I'll take the sofa. Oh great, she really was a good girl. Good girl. And a super stubborn one too to boot. A super stubborn one to boot. Just what was I supposed to do with her? First of all, it's not bad for me. Second of all, even if it were, I wouldn't care, so there's no need for you to worry about it. But... what, are we going to sleep together after all? I have no objections if that's what you want. She flushed red as a beet again. Nothing to it. All I had to do was play this out and she'd have to yield. At least that's what I thought, until she just sort of quietly nodded, that is. I wasn't prepared for this. Uh-oh. La? You don't just say okay to something like this. What are you gonna do if I try something? What are you thinking about trying something for? And what are you going to do? Rape me? What is... It's escalating quickly. No. But that's not the point. What if someone saw us, got the wrong idea or something? Imagine the rumors. I was sounding like some kind of preachy old man now. So this is what I'd been reduced to. Just wonderful. What the hell was wrong with me today? You won't do anything to hurt me. I trust you. She what? Anyway, look. You happen to be my guest. So you take the bed and I'll take the sofa. That's the rule. And so as long as we're here, we can't break it. I hadn't wanted to play this card. I was supposed to be her guide, not her overseer. I couldn't just order her around like this. But in the face of such stubbornness, I didn't think I had a choice. She looked at me as if she wanted to make an objection, but then she slowly nodded. She stood up without a word after that and began walking toward the bathroom. Oh man. Now I was all worn out. I'd almost finished washing the dishes when Law suddenly reappeared in the kitchen. She apparently been there for a while, watching me quietly, but it wasn't until I caught the faint and intoxicating smell of floral shampoo wafting from her just-washed hair that I became aware of her presence. Yes? No, it's nothing. Good night, Blackiris. There was the gentlest hint of a smile on her face as she turned heel and walked out of the kitchen. I stood still and listened for a long time after that. I was sure that she'd tucked herself in and gone to sleep. What a strange girl. My chair is squeaking a ton. Ow. I don't know why. Okay. What a strange girl. Strange, but not bad at all. Every time I thought of what a pain tomorrow was going to be, that bashful good night kept popping into my head. In the end, I couldn't help but to smile. So she'd left me with no choice but to do well for her sake, again. The next morning, I was startled awake by an awful crashing sound. Interesting, I'd never been woken up this way before. I allowed myself a deep sigh and then got up off the sofa. I bet she was trying to make breakfast or something. La's back was turned to me when I found her, so I said, "Good morning," and an early riser, I see. And almost succeeded at suppressing a grin when she jumped in surprise. Good morning." But then I looked down, and the sight completely succeeded in wiping the smirk off my face. There was a familiar-looking kettle on the floor, and a spreading dark puddle that had been the remnants of yesterday's stew. Good job. How did it come to this? Stew for breakfast, kettle boiled over. Want to take it off, stuff burned, and, Okay, so that explained a couple of things. The peculiar smell, for one thing, and the uncharacteristic warmth of the house for another. I looked over to the stove, and sure enough, it was lit and burning bright. Then I had the following sequence of thoughts. 1. Man, this is weird. 2. I certainly didn't build that fire. 3. So she must have. 4. Man, this is weird. Not bad at all, actually. Ever since I became a Mnemonicide, I'd always lived alone. There was a stray kitten who'd invited herself into my life for a while, but obviously cats can't light stoves or build fires. And of course, she didn't stick around forever. One day I woke up and she was gone. You didn't get scalded or anything, I see. That's a relief. I'm not mad at you or anything, so there's no need to apologize. I'm so sorry. Wait, didn't I just tell her not to apologize? After that, I started cleaning the mess up, but La wasn't having any of that. Okay, fine, whatever. So I figured we'd do it together, but she wouldn't have any of that either. So in the end, she stubbornly insisted on cleaning the mess up all by herself. After the kitchen was spick and span, we broke fast with some pastries. Let's head out once we're finished eating. Any particular place you want to go? This was how the job worked. As her guide, I would show her around the town, and she grew more and more comfortable with life here, the more opportunities I would have as her Mnemonicide to erase the memories that had so corroded her psyche. But the thing was, I really didn't like doing any of this. Not that it mattered. Hell, it was my job. I didn't have a choice in the matter. Well, it wasn't as if I was bad at it. Quite the contrary, I was quite efficient both as a guide and a Mnemonicide. I had 2 years of rigorous training in both to thank for that. That was mandatory for licensure. And I'd passed with flying colors. I accidentally skipped that. Really, the only reason I hated this part of my job was because I simply hated walking around outside. I mean, what's the point? Up to you. You are my guide, yes? La looked up from her glass of milk to briefly flit her eyes at mine. I thought that she would say something like that, but still, it bothered the hell out of me. Now I really wanted to let out a sigh. Alright, let's go. Best to take your coat with you. It's cold out, you know. La nodded, then undraped her government-issued topcoat from her chair. We walked out the door and into our frozen town. She trailed me by a few paces. The streets were deserted in defiance of the day's star's wan advance. The shadows beat long tattoos on the snow-choked eaves. Jeez, adjectives. There were a little under 1,000 licensed Mnemonicides here, and each one of us had a guest. Then there were governmental personnel. Oh yes, the people who had special permission to set up business in town. Too few people, too many ghosts. That was the problem with this place. The dollar was a pandemic. The waitlist for the Mnemonicide protocol ran into the hundreds of pages. There just weren't enough of us to go around. La was gazing at the storefronts and the houses. What was it that she saw? All I could see was an awkward clod of brick and ice and ruin congealing out of slushy asphalt. Now as I continued to walk along, she stopped to look at something, then started, then stopped to stare at something else entirely, then started again, and so on. Naturally, quite a gap rose between us. I thought for a second about waiting and matching pace with her, but it was far more fun to just watch her antics, so I let her be. Blackiris, where are we going? She asked as she caught up to me, her feet thudding on the icy sidewalk and her breath painting short-lived clouds on the air above us. About us. Let's see. How about some nice, delicious coffee? There's this place I know on 6th Street, so let's take the trolley from here. What? You heard me, right? Don't tell me you've never ridden one before. I haven't. That struck me as more than a little odd. Other than on foot, there was no other real method of transportation around here, and our trolley system was so good anyway that no one really minded. The other cities of our country had public transit systems that were at least as well developed as ours. That's how normal people got around. But Law here had been chauffeured around all her life, apparently. Her family must have been very rich or very important, or both. As I stopped to think about this, Law took the opportunity to sprint past me towards the station. So she could be this lively at times, eh? Fascinating. Why is she here then? I don't know. She's not as depressed as one might think she should be coming here. However, since her small figure was already receding into the horizon, I was going to have to cut my reverie short. A smile came to my lips unbidden, and I began to walk again. We got off the trolley at 6th Street Station and headed towards our destination. Rhymes again. Law, of course, continued to make her frequent investigatory stops, but in this case, it was entirely understandable. Our house was on 8th Street. That end of town was mainly private residences. But 6th, well, it was the closest thing we had to a shopping mall around these parts. And Law seemed intent on examining every single piece of merchandise and every single display window we encountered. Well, we're gonna continue this shopping trip with Law later. Hopefully gonna learn more about Blackiris. I'm kind of more interested in him than Law, just because why the heck are you a Mnemonicide if you don't like it? Anyways, thanks for watching.